Sky F1 is falling apart, Lance Stroll's seat has come more under question, and Lando Norris shrugs off the pressure as the 2024 championship concludes. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Lance Stroll may be the most secure driver on the F1 2024 grid, but he won't be the one Aston Martin relies on to win a title in an Adrian Newey car. That's according to respected BBC journalist Andrew Benson. Although Stroll has spent 8 years on the Formula One grid, 6 of those have been with the team owned by his father Lawrence, who bought Force India before rebranding it Aston Martin. Under his leadership, Aston Martin has grown in stature as a team with a state-of-the-art facility, a new wind tunnel, and more recently the signing of acclaimed F1 designer Newey. All the signs point to a team wanting championship success, although questions remain about Stroll. While Aston Martin has fielded the likes of 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel and double world champion Fernando Alonso, the team's second seat belongs to Lance Stroll. And as long as he wants it, it's his. Although he hasn't matched the results of this teammate, and currently sits on 24 points to Alonso's 62, a battle he lost by 74 points to 206 last year, there's no talk of Stroll's race seat being under threat. Last time out in Brazil, his season hit a new low as he beached his AMR 24 after going off on the formation lap and then trying to drive through a sodden gravel trap. While his former karting rival Jarno Opmeer declared Stroll was not someone you'd expect in F1, Ziggo Sports' Olav Moll blasted the Canadian for having the same intelligence as a dead dinosaur egg. It begs the question, how long can Stroll continue at Aston Martin while not performing? Benson reckons the answer to that is as long as Stroll wants, even if he isn't the team's champion-elect. Aston Martin owner Lawrence Stroll has never quite said it in as many words, but people who know him well and have worked for him believe he bought an F1 team for his son, and his big ambition is for Lance to become world champion, he said in a BBC Q&A. So Lance will be in the car as long as he wants to be an F1 driver. And the big question surrounding the team is what happens to it if there ever comes a point when he does not want to continue. Will Lawrence want to continue as an owner if Lance is no longer a driver? Lawrence Stroll has masterminded a series of developments at Aston Martin that underline his ambition for the team to become title contenders. The latest is the signing of Adrian Newey, F1's most celebrated design engineer, who will start work in March 2025. Newey follows a major recruitment program, as well as the building of a new factory and wind tunnel. Lance Stroll clearly has talent. He put a racing point on pole in the wet in Turkey in 2020, for example, and shows well from time to time. But he is yet to prove he can put in this sort of performance other than very occasionally. On a general level, Stroll has been slower than every teammate he has had in F1, other than Sergei Sirotkin in 2018. So, given that a team needs to have 2 cars, it's hard to see how Stroll can ever be world champion, as one would imagine that whichever leading driver Aston Martin sign alongside him in the future will be quicker. The main seat is occupied until the end of 2026 by Fernando Alonso. He will be 45 by the time his contract runs out, and has not said whether he wants to continue beyond that time. If Alonso leaves or the team decide to sign someone else, he is likely to be replaced by another leading driver, who would again be expected to beat Stroll on the basis of the evidence so far. As for whether seats should be decided on talent alone, it has always been the case in F1 that there is the odd driver who owes his seat at least partly to the funding he brings with him. It's an expensive sport. Stroll owns the team. People might not like it, but it's his prerogative who he puts in the car. After Lando Norris faced a challenging race in Brazil that likely dashed his hopes for the 2024 F1 title, the competition continues for McLaren in the Constructors' Championship standings. Norris has quickly downplayed the threat posed by Red Bull. The impressive rise of both McLaren and Norris throughout the 2024 F1 season has made the pursuit of a new title for Red Bull's Max Verstappen more difficult than before. However, this title race seemed to have nearly concluded during the recent Brazilian Grand Prix, where Verstappen showcased his racing skill by starting from 17th on the grid and ultimately achieving a remarkable victory. This win has put him 62 points ahead of Norris, with only 3 races remaining in the season. If Verstappen secures a top 2 finish in the upcoming Las Vegas Grand Prix this weekend, he will be crowned a 4-time world champion. While this is significant for the Drivers' Championship, the situation looks even more promising for McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, as they currently hold a 36-point lead over Ferrari going into the final set of races, and Red Bull is an additional 13 points behind them. In an interview with Sky F1 before the Las Vegas GP, Norris was very direct in his assessment of Red Bull's potential to take home a third consecutive Constructors' title. He pointed out that the difficulties faced by Sergio Perez have resulted in Verstappen carrying the majority of Red Bull's points. In contrast, the partnerships of Norris and Oscar Piastri at McLaren and Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz at Ferrari have shown a more even distribution of points between their drivers. Norris remarked, "After Miami, I already said back then our challenge is not with Red Bull, it's with Ferrari." He articulated that he has consistently stated this, and it has been clear for a long time that Ferrari would be a more substantial competitor than Red Bull. He emphasized, "So no, there's almost no focus on Red Bull. There's focus on executing our own program, executing our own potential, the rest should take care of itself." While this sentiment of focusing solely on their own performance may seem a bit cliché, Norris raised an important question about the value of concentrating on the performance of other teams. He elaborated, "But people get hung up too easily on teams. What can you do? How can focusing on a team change anything? It doesn't." Norris believes that discussions around opposing teams are merely a distraction, stating, "It's just chat that people like to come up with and think about and envision." He reiterated their awareness that Ferrari would be their main challenger for quite some time, and he noted that the competition is becoming increasingly direct between Ferrari and McLaren. However, Norris also indicated that while this situation is thrilling for the McLaren team, it brings with it a certain level of pressure. He concluded, "We can't afford a one-point mistake now, and at the end of the year, that could be all it takes." The conclusion of the 2024 Formula One season is drawing near, with the Qatar and Abu Dhabi Grand Prix set to follow the Las Vegas race, marking the final stretch of the championship. Former Sky F1 commentator Johnny Herbert has hinted at the possibility that both Martin Brundle and David Croft might be leaving their positions at Sky Sports. Additionally, he shared some insights regarding Damon Hill's reaction to the criticism he faced due to his comments about Max Verstappen. Between the Brazilian Grand Prix and the upcoming Las Vegas Grand Prix, Damon Hill, who was the world champion in 1996, made the announcement that he would be leaving Sky's Formula One coverage after the conclusion of the 2024 F1 season. Hill has been a part of Sky's commentary team since they obtained the broadcasting rights for Formula One back in 2012. Meanwhile, Herbert has expressed concerns about the futures of Brundle, who acts as a co-commentator and pundit, and Croft, the lead commentator, both of whom have been with the network since it began its coverage. Herbert spoke with FlashScoreUSA.com, sharing his uncertainty regarding whether Hill's departure was a personal decision or if it was made by Sky itself. He said, "I don't know whether it was Hill's decision or Sky's, to be honest." Herbert also suggested that enjoyment could have played a role in Hill's choice to leave. He mentioned, "Was it an enjoyment factor? Potentially. I know he got criticism for the Max scenarios and maybe he felt, you know what, I don't need that." Herbert noted that there are changes happening within the Sky F1 team, and he expressed concern about what might happen to Brundle and Croft if Hill was indeed let go. Recently, Hill made headlines after expressing his doubts about Max Verstappen's ability to race fairly, saying it is not in his repertoire. This followed an incident where Verstappen received 2 10-second time penalties during his racing battles with Lando Norris in Mexico. Herbert himself has openly criticized Verstappen, which has led to the Dutch driver responding to the British media during the race weekend in Brazil. Herbert shared that the significant backlash that Hill received following his comments about Verstappen affected Hill deeply. He stated, "He was very unhappy at the crazy level of abuse he got over his Max comments. Maybe all that negativity made him decide." What is clear in this situation is that Hill's tenure with Sky F1 is set to conclude, and both Brundle and Croft have been part of the commentary team that Hill publicly praised when he announced his decision to step away. In his message posted on X, which was formerly known as Twitter, Hill reflected on his time by saying, "It's been a fantastic 13 years with Sky Sports F1, but all good things come to an end." He added how much he will miss working with such a talented and impressive group of professionals, stating, "It has ever been my pleasure to have worked with. Looking forward to new challenges. As the F1 2024 season continues, the excitement builds for the upcoming Las Vegas Grand Prix, marking the first race in a series of 3 consecutive races that will bring the season to a close. For Verstappen, there is a significant milestone within reach. He only needs to finish 3 points ahead of Lando Norris to claim his title as a 4-time world champion. Lewis Hamilton could reportedly sponsor the Ferrari team via his non-alcoholic tequila brand following his move from Mercedes for the F1 2025 season. It comes as further details surrounding the 7-time world champion's first pre-season with his new team come to light. Hamilton announced earlier this year that he will join Ferrari on a multi-year contract from F1 2025, bringing an end to his long and successful association with Mercedes. The British driver has claimed 6 of his joint record 7 world championships with Mercedes, as well as becoming the first man to surpass 100 Grand Prix victories and pole positions since his arrival from McLaren in 2013. Mercedes also have the distinction of proving the engines for each of Hamilton's 353 F1 starts to date, stretching back to his debut season in 2007. Hamilton's switch to Ferrari is set to be highly lucrative, with the most successful driver in F1 history joining forces with the most successful team. And a report in Italy has claimed that Hamilton could even sponsor the team himself via Almave, the non-alcoholic spirit co-founded by the 39-year-old in 2023. Respected Italian publication Auto Racer has suggested that Hamilton's portfolio of personal sponsors, including energy drink Monster and clothing giants Puma and Tommy Hilfiger, are poised to follow him to Maranello, with recent speculation indicating that Almave could become a Ferrari partner. Almave received a boost in August when industry leader Pernod Ricard announced that it had acquired a minority stake in the company. It is not unprecedented for companies attached to drivers to sponsor the teams they represent, with the most notable example of recent times coming in 2018 when the branding of Kimoa, the apparel company founded by Fernando Alonso, featured prominently on the McLaren F1 car raced by the 2-time world champion. Planet F1.com revealed earlier this year that Hamilton will not be released early from his Mercedes contract to represent Ferrari at next month's post-season test in Abu Dhabi, with the Silver Arrows planning a number of farewell activities with Hamilton to mark the end of his time with the team. Autoracer adds that Hamilton is unlikely to start F1 2025 preparations with Ferrari before late January, with the team set to document his first day at Maranello. Hamilton will get his first taste of Ferrari F1 machinery at the Fiorano test track, with it yet to be decided whether he will drive the F1 75 of 2022 or last season's SF23, contradicting reports last week that Hamilton's Ferrari debut is set to be with the 2022 car. A number of design details related to Ferrari's F1 2025 car, codenamed Project 677, have surfaced over recent months, with the Scuderia widely expected to follow Red Bull and McLaren by adopting a pushrod front suspension layout. The move is thought to have been directly influenced by Hamilton's arrival, as his driving style is closer in technique to F1 2025 teammate Charles Leclerc than current incumbent Carlos Sainz, allowing Ferrari to facilitate the change. It is hoped that the move to a pushrod front suspension will improve airflow towards the complex underbody, which generates a significant proportion of the car's overall downforce under the current ground effect regulations in place since 2022. A change to the car's wheelbase, effectively the distance between the front and rear wheels, is also on the horizon, as well as revisions to the internal parts of the gearbox. Ferrari are also tipped to tweak the packaging of their cooling system, with changes planned to give the aerodynamic department a greater degree of freedom, particularly in the lower section of the side pods. However, the Scuderia are expected to stick with their unusual pull rod rear suspension, despite former technical director Enrico Cardile's switch to Aston Martin. Ferrari's suspension choices under Cardile have been heavily scrutinized throughout the ground effect era, with the prancing horse and customer outfit Haas the only teams to remain with a pull rod rear suspension. Yet Ferrari regard the design detail as a key factor behind the current car's impressive tire management, encouraging the new technical team led by former Mercedes man Loic Serra to stick with a pull rod rear for F1 2025. Serra is believed to be particularly close to Hamilton, having shared the driver's reservations over the divisive zero-pod design concept pursued by Mercedes under former technical director Mike Elliott across 2022-23. Hamilton, who will turn 40 in January, has just 3 races left of his Mercedes career, starting with this weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix. The 7-time world champion has grown increasingly emotional over recent months as the end of his time with the Brackley-based team nears. Speaking to media, including PlanetF1.com, after qualifying at the Italian Grand Prix, on the day Mercedes confirmed teenage sensation Andrea Kimi Antonelli as his successor for F1 2025, Hamilton admitted it was very surreal to see the seat he had held for so long allocated to a different driver. He said, "I've known about Antonelli's promotion for ages. I knew it would be announced this morning. I definitely woke up and it was very, very, very surreal to just have, at least officially confirmed, my seat is going that I held on to for so long. So it was quite emotional this morning, but I'm really, really happy for Kimi and for this team. I know Kimi is going to do a great job." Asked if he is becoming more emotional as the races tick by towards the end of his Mercedes career, he added, "It's been there all year. Every single race you turn up. I love my team so much. We have been through a hell of a lot together, so it will be emotional every single race. Because every race we do is the last time at that particular place. Every race we get closer and closer to the last time I'll be in that Mercedes. It's going to be tough, but my focus is just to do my best job for the team and to finish on a high." Hamilton elaborated on his emotions at the end of the Italian GP weekend, with the final European-based race of the F1 2024 season marking the last time he would use his room within Mercedes' own hospitality unit on a race weekend. "Leaving Monza, it hit me that it was the last European race this year," he wrote in a social media post. "The last time I'll be in my room in engineering that's been my home for 12 years. This is such a unique time in my life, one that continues to bring out a lot of emotions. What I feel the most is pride and gratitude. The memories will last forever, as will the memories I make next year." Sergio Perez is not guaranteed a Red Bull race seat come the season-ending Abu Dhabi GP, Helmut Marko saying maybe it will work out for the Mexican driver. For months, Perez has been the subject of rumors and speculation, the 34-year-old hanging onto his Red Bull race seat by his fingertips, and sponsorship. He has not only failed to reach the podium in the last 16 races, but during that period has scored a mere 66 points, leaving him down in 8th place in the Drivers' Championship and hurting Red Bull in the Constructors. The team has fallen from P1 to P3, 49 points off the pace of the 2-car scoring McLaren outfit and 13 behind Ferrari. It is set to cost Red Bull millions in prize money, and it could cost Perez his race seat before the season is over. Although it has been widely reported that Perez could be out at the end of the season, replaced by either V-Carb's Liam Lawson or Williams' Franco Colapinto, Marko isn't even willing to guarantee the 6-time Grand Prix winner will be in the car in Abu Dhabi. Asked by OE24 if Perez could vacate his seat before the finale, the Motorsport advisor replied, "We've still got 3 races left, so we should be able to get halfway through them. Maybe it will work out for us after all." Lawson is the most immediate threat to Perez, with the V-Carb rookie scoring 4 points in his 3 races with the junior team, while Perez has managed just 6 in the same period despite driving the RB20. But it's not all doom and gloom for Red Bull, as the team is on the cusp of winning the Drivers' Championship title with Verstappen, his 4th in succession. The Red Bull driver will line up in Las Vegas 62 points ahead of Lando Norris, meaning he only needs to outscore him by 3 to wrap up the title with 2 races to spare. "If we win the title again this year, it will be mainly down to Max," declared Marko. With his exceptional driving skills, he covered up all the phases in which the car really wasn't good. Such are his odds in Vegas, the 81-year-old reckons the 4-time world champion t-shirts have been packed. "Verstappen's manager, as I know him, certainly has it in his luggage," he said. However, even if Perez does see out the season with Red Bull, he's being tipped to leave at the end of the year with Lawson or Colapinto taking his place. The latter has been the subject of different rumors, one claiming he'll be in the RB21 alongside Verstappen, while the other suggests it is a V-Carb seat with Lawson moving up to Red Bull. Red Bull have blown hot and cold on the rumors, with every comment suggesting Perez is out, followed up by another saying they have a contract for F1 2025. That is it for this video. I'll see you around.